Recording in progress. I am going to start. All right, so you guys on Zoom, I think you're able to see my screen where it has the command login in the middle, the home screen. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Perfect. Okay, let me. Well, that part probably doesn't matter quite as much. Oh, I take that back. Let me grab something for the printer for you guys. All right, hold on in Zoom. Sorry, guys.
So Brad, you said you're selling the security side. Do you have an inspection side?
Well, yeah, we have a company, a friend of mine, I started called Safe Nest Home Watch.
Okay.
So many people don't live here full time.
Yeah.
And if you don't catch certain thing in your house within 7 days, the insurance company goes, "Ooh, we're not paying for that. You are," like a water leak.
Right.
Now I'm fully prepared.
So we actually go in and all their systems and water and plumbing and electric and fans and garbage, and have a concierge service that helps deliver stuff on.
Nice.
And it's me. We only do Lakewood Ranch. So we've got homes in Waterside, Country Club East, Polo Run, National Concessions, and all that stuff. And we get paid an exorbitant amount of money to go in there and just look at them and go, "Yeah, they're fine."
You don't just have a camera in the house?
Well, we developed an app and all kinds of things. So I take pictures and it just sends right to their phone. And most all the clients have like Ring Central and cameras. And so if I see something, I'll do it. And they're looking at me and I'm looking at the camera and they go, "Yeah, call this guy to do that. Can you come back for another $100 an hour?"
I'm gonna put you to work. Can you make sure, make sure that each one of them, I think there's 5 copies. If you can get that. So
I had copies.
I know, just make sure. That'll take care of that. So you guys that are on Zoom, I'm going to send you a document that has this laid out so that you can use it if you're a paper person and just wanted to follow along as you were doing it. And you ever forgot, it's all there for you. If you're a little bit better with technology, you might see this fairly intuitive. But it is a system. And if you have never used the system before, then it might take you just a minute. So what we're going to do is go over our, let me just make sure. Okay. We are going to go from the home page into command. Now you can do your presentations in command or in designs, or I'm sorry, you're in command or in Canva if you wanted to. Either one of them would be fine. Doesn't really matter. I just want to show you what we have. You could also, because you are a Keller Williams agent, you're able to take any of the photos, any of the info that's here in the system of Keller Williams and take those pictures, take those graphics and put them into Canva if you decided that you wanted to use that, because it is a little bit of a different system and you were going to use some of the social media aspects of Canva or any of that type of thing. I'm only mentioning that because I know that a lot of us do use Canva on the regular basis too. And I don't want to say that you can't use Canva, because you can. So if I go into command and I go into my design section, which is on the left-hand side, this little icon here, and it'll tell me that it's designs, I have the ability to create a design. Now, because we're doing a presentation, this presentation could either live online, you could save it that it stays online, and then you can just share a link for somebody to get to it, or you can do it by paper. Either way will actually work, but from a perspective of how you're creating this, you want to hit print. And once you hit print and go into the system that you're going to be creating something, you have a lot of things on the left-hand side. On the left-hand side, the one that we're going to focus with obviously is the listing and buyer's presentation, but you have the ability to pull in, if you wanted something that was holiday, you could actually use some of the things that are already there. So totally up to you.
On Zoom.
Is there somebody waiting?
Yeah, to come on in.
Oops.
Morning.
Okay. So I can use any of these designs and do things with them, whether I want to share it on social media, send out postcards, have flyers, anything. We are going to focus on first listings and the listing presentation. So it gives you 5 examples of how to do a listing, or 5 samples that you can then use and customize, or you can take this as your sample and change the photos so that your front doesn't look anything like this. This is just your baseline. And if you take it as what kind of a style are you looking for? Like on the left-hand side, it's red, it's bold, just like the black one is very bold, or these that are kind of in the middle, they're a little bit more simplistic. And this one might be just a little bit more traditional. So it's totally up to you. Just realize that that style is going to carry through and the color scheme is going to carry through. So I'll take the consensus. Anybody want to vote for a color? Which one I use? Doesn't really matter.
Black. I like the second or third one. To me, if you're gonna print this, that's a whole lot of black on that one on the right.
It would be.
I like the second one too.
Yeah,
Okay.
second's pretty
Second one. All right. So we're going, okay. Enough people said second. So I'm just going to go with it. And so what's happening is it's loading. There's about 28 pages. Ooh, 29 pages. There's 29 pages that are in this. And so what happens is once you get to this screen, you have a lot of different things in here. So I can add photos. I have the workspace. So if you see how there are different things that you could possibly add, I'm going to say, let me go into the file that is, this was like lifestyle or something like that. And I wanted to add some photos to this. I can actually take them. They're already in the system and I can utilize those for this presentation. So I don't need to go out and buy pictures. I could, I'm not saying that you can't, or you could use pictures that you have for yourself. That's fine too. Hey, so that's where they are. So for this one, if I wanted it to stay nice and clean for that front page, great. But if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to add this picture, I can do that. I can put down here, have a nice picture down here. And I can even take this picture and I right click on my mouse and I go into my layering order and I can even send it backwards. Oh, whoops, take that back. Or maybe I can't. Okay, skip what I just said. We're going to leave it like that. So if I wanted to add a picture, I could. That's just really what I was trying to do with that piece. All right, so I'm going to delete that because I'm more on the plain side and I like it just kind of nice and clean. So now let's go over what these pages look like. So all I did is I just went over on the far right-hand side on the bottom, it has pages. Has 29 pages. If I want to see what those 29 pages look like, I can click over here. I can also go over here to my template and it will open up the pages a little bit larger. So I like the larger part at the moment. So I'm going to go over here. So anytime I want to see another page, I just have to click on it and it will show me that page. I'm going to go back to the top. So here's what I want to do with this. I want us to go through this. Some of it we're going to go through fairly quickly, but I want you to know how to add. If you have your computer with you, then you'll know how to add something to it. And if you don't, that's okay. Just take notes. You have some paper there as well. But I want to talk about what pages are going to be important when it comes to giving a listing presentation and giving a buyer's presentation, and tell you why. Because when you get there, I'm telling you, if you sit down with somebody and you go over 28 pages of anything, they're going to ask you, well, most likely they're going to ask you to leave. They're either going to be the person that's like, oh, good, you're here for 4 hours. Awesome. Didn't have anything else to do for today. Or you're going to be like, why are you still here? Most of the time, they're just going to get bored with your presentation. So that's not what we're looking to do. Okay. So cover page is going to be the cover page. If you want to add to this, you can. I showed you how to add the picture. This instruction page, you must delete it because the person that you're going to present to obviously doesn't need to know how to utilize our system. So because of that, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to open up my pages, and this, the 3 little dots, I'm going to delete it. I don't need it. I'm going to delete it. If you want to read your instruction page, that's fine, because maybe you haven't, your first time doing it, go for it.
Suzy, I'm used to having to save frequently. Is this?
You should be saving frequently.
Is this something?
Yeah. I haven't really done anything yet, so I will save it when I go to my next page. I'm a saver every time I finish a page. That would be my rule.
Great.
Yep. All right. If you're doing open houses, if you may not have done this yet, but if you're doing open houses, have a generic listing presentation. Because imagine that somebody comes in and you have an opportunity to spend 10 minutes with them. They want to sell their house down the street next month or 2 months from now. Why not take that opportunity and have part of a listing presentation with them? You have them a captured audience. Take it. That may be your one shot. So I want everybody to have a generic one. You can also have 2 different types of generic ones. Imagine that you have one that is more of, for the most part, we sell a lot of houses that are around $400,000. Maybe you want to have one that's for the average house, and then maybe you want to have one that's for luxury, and they could have a different look and feel. So I would recommend doing a second one. Do your bread and butter one first. We sell more houses that are around the 400 or 500, well, even between 300 and 500, we sell more of those houses than any other houses. So if you have a generic one, you would then be removing where it says client name. You would delete that. There's no reason to have it there. You don't need it. Here, you can add your photo. So your photo should be in the system because Scott Leroy Marketing, that company, does it for us. If you didn't have it done in your marketing stuff, if you go here to where you have images and your My Assets, if it doesn't have a photo of you, then you can add it. I would still say contact Scott Leroy Marketing, send them your photo so that they can take care of it for you, because it's going to show up in other places. It's not going to be there for you. And I recommend having it there. But in my ads section, I can click on this. I just need to find it. And I'm adding a picture.
So even though we're already in, there are pictures in here?
You should have in the My Assets section, it should have something. Does it not have a picture at all?
It's just, I've got 2 KW logos.
Check with Scott Leroy Marketing and he can add it, or you can add it yourself. Like I just added it here. I know. The thing is, we have Scott Leroy Marketing. They can do a lot of things. We also can do it. There are Keller Williams offices that don't have, we pay Scott Leroy to be there for us. So let's say obviously I don't want this picture. So I can, delete that picture, take this picture, move it over here, and just fit it in. Sometimes it'll plop in, but it's okay.
Are you deleting it, the first one?
Oh, I just click on it
Mhm.
and hit delete.
Oh,
Yep. And then I could put this here. If I wanted to, I can move it around. It doesn't have to go right where the picture was. And these little lines help us with putting it in the middle. If you wanted it to be exactly in the middle, see how there's some lines that pop up? That's kind of helpful. Or maybe I don't like it over there. Maybe I want it over here. Well, yay, I can do that. Doesn't really matter. Now, again, if I were going to have this as a blank template, not template, I'm sorry. If I were going to have this as a generic one for when I'm out and about and I happen to talk to somebody that's thinking about selling and I'm able to just pass them a folder, then I wouldn't have, well, I could have compliments of.
look at that.
I know, well, I'm trying to listen to the broker, right? Ah! Now, because that didn't fit on this line, all I have to do is just pull it out. Oops, that was weird. There we go. And maybe I want it on one line. I don't know. Now I'm starting to get too particular. There we go. And then I could go through and I could put my email address, my website, phone number, all of that could be on there as well. Now, the other thing that should be there or be in the system is under logos. You should have the Keller Williams logo for this office. So I'm going to take this and put it here. I'm going to delete the one that says DBA because this is what it wants you to do. It wants you to put in our logo, which you need to. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. You're able to see. And then of course I could put in our address. So I'm not going to take that extra time at the moment because I want us to get through as much as possible with this, but that's how I could make it just generic. It doesn't say anything about 123 Main Street or this place in Lakewood Ranch, this place in Sarasota. It doesn't have anything to do with that. Now, this is not necessarily a picture that is similar to our area. This is where you might want to go out and either you could purchase a picture. There's different places that have photos online for free. iStock Photo has some pictures. Pixabay, that's another one. That's probably the best one where you can get free photos and you don't have to have that. Or you can go out and you take a picture of something. Go out and take a picture of the Lakewood Ranch sign. Take a picture of the at the beach, or maybe you have that already and you could utilize that and put that here.
Can you say the name of the Pixabay?
Pixabay, 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 maybe? Does that sound right?
Yeah, I've been using that one.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Hey, Susie.
Yes.
So when you want to change, put your name in there versus the template, you just double click on it or do you remove it? Because mine's not letting me just type in that box.
In this box, like here,
Yeah.
maybe triple click it. It should.
Okay.
Yeah, it should. It's letting me highlight it, delete it. I can type. I'm not sure. I would just keep clicking it. It should pop up.
Okay.
So that's your first page, right? So here we are. Oops, actually. Let's just keep going. This is your table of contents. What's this going to be like? So if you're sitting down at your listing presentation, ideally, You want them to understand what the next half an hour or hour is going to be like. Here are the things that I want to go over with you, and go over them. These are the items that are within the presentation. Now they elaborate, it's not just 4 pages, it's more than that, but here are the things that we're going to go over. Talk a little bit about your property. We're going to talk about the transaction timeline. Let's say that they've told you that they want to be moved out and moved to wherever they're going in the next 60 days. So what do we need to do if we're listing your house? What do we need to do to make sure that you do have a closing within the next 60 days? Your custom marketing plan. It's custom. Make it what it is. If you're doing a lot of things on social media, then put a lot of things in social, let them know that there's a lot of things that are going to be done on social media. If you're not a person that's doing it on social media, I suggest either learning about it or paying somebody else, because your sellers more times than not are going to expect that. The thing is, you don't have to be the one that does it. You just need to know that you need to hire somebody if that's what's expected. If they're not expecting that, fine. But it is something that you may want to get more comfortable with. And then also representing your home. So what is the process going to look like? You're representing them as the seller. Talk a little bit about agency. What if you have a buyer come in that is yours? You want to give them a little bit of that. And how you're going to show up when it comes to open houses, showings, whatever is needed for that particular listing. Okay. So that's the table of contents. Now you might want to talk about other things in that. Maybe you want to add specifically about open houses because you're planning on doing a ton of open houses for that property. You could add that. If you've talked to them on the phone and they spoke about something being super important to them, I don't know, their lifestyle is going to be a bit of a challenge. They have, 7 dogs and 18 kids, and getting them in and out for showings might be a little bit of problematic. You may want to put a little, bullet point that, okay, let's have this conversation on how we're going to make all this work. This is your baseline. So for the most part, it's probably going to be a page you're not going to do a whole lot with. Again, if you wanted to change the photo, you can. And make it something that makes sense to you. If you're the person that's not the palm trees and beaches and all that kind of stuff, don't put pictures in there that are palm trees and beaches. Now, if you're selling palm trees and beaches and that's the house, yes, kind of lean into that. But your generic, like this is an interior picture, that's what I would suggest. You want to have pictures because it just makes the presentation look a little bit nicer. All right. So here's what we're going to talk about today. And here's your paper that actually dictates what that's about. Have a little bit about their home. You may not have walked through the property. If you haven't walked through the property, then you're only going to go by what they say. And whether or not it's going to have 4 paragraphs, possibly not. It may just have a couple of things. They've updated the entire kitchen. All of the appliances are new. It was gutted and renovated. Those are some attributes. And let them explain, because let them elaborate on those items. The reason this slide is in here is so that you can remember to talk about their home. I've done a lot of listing presentations. I may not need a slide to remind me that I need to find out about the details of their home. You may want to. So I think that there should be some type of a sheet that is like this, because you're going to need to ask them those questions. If it is a brand new home built 2 years ago, maybe you don't need it, because you can just look at the builder specs. Everything is already there. Oh, see, have to do it at least once. Have a discussion about the market in their area. We have the ability, if you have not done this, and this is a Blake class, well, what I'm going to talk about is a Blake class, not that we're going to do it here. Neighborhood searches within the system, and where you get these emails that come to you that have Lakewood Ranch or specific community within an area, you get an email that has a lot of the stuff that's on here. The pictures and all that are very similar to what's here. They change it up a little bit, but it looks like this. And you're just taking screenshots of that and popping it into your flyer or your presentation. So if you don't know how to do the neighborhood snapshots or the market updates, I want to say is what they're called, learn how to do that through Blake or watch a video. They're not hard. You really just have to add it to the profile of the person. And then you can take that information and put that into here. You do need to talk about what's going on in the market. Have there been, 15 sales in the last 3 months? And of those 15 sales, there's 3 houses that are very similar to yours. This one had a pool. This one doesn't have a pool. This one is a 2-story versus yours is a 1-story. And then you can have that discussion. You do need to let them know what's happening in the market. You can also let them know what's happening in the broad market. So using a place like, let's say, Sarasota as a whole, if you use the entire city of Sarasota, there's a vast difference in a place that is close to downtown, that's a house built in the 60s versus something that's closer to the highway that was built 15 years ago. Those are going to be entirely different houses. So you have to be careful about going, you want to go very local, and also still talk about the whole area, because that's going to influence them. A good example of that is we have a lot of new construction that's here. So if you're just looking at 4-bedroom, 2-bath homes, and you're looking at that in the entire city of Sarasota, you're going to have homes that were built last year, and you're going to have homes that were built in the 60s. They're not going to be comps of each other. You want to have them as a reference, but they're not going to be truly comps. So just be careful when it comes to it. But that's a CMA class. Hopefully you guys came to a CMA class last week. Did everybody go to CMA class last week? A lot of you did, right? It's good. Very good. Okay, let's continue. And again, let's stop for a second. Remember, if I want this to be updated for their information, I have their picture of that community, delete this one and add theirs. Right? We all kind of get that, because I showed that at the beginning. Why are you guys so quiet, by the way?
We're absorbing all this information.
Was that it? Oh boy. So I'm going to tell you how I really feel about this slide. Please don't use this slide. The reason being is this slide, it's unnecessary for you to use this. Just go to the MLS and print out the comps that you're going to use. You do not need to go and make them small and then write up stuff. That is way too time consuming. They want info. So show them true info that's right from the MLS. Print out 4 sheets, or really 9 sheets would be great. From a presentation perspective, you do not have to have every single property that has sold. If you're able to find in the last couple of months 3 houses that are active, 3 houses that are under contract, and 3 houses that have sold that are very similar, that would be enough to discuss in a listing presentation. You may not have 3 of each one of those phases. You may only have 2 of one, or 1 of this or 1 of that. So that's why you took that CMA class. That gives you a little bit of an idea on how to do that. But please you don't need to really have any more than 9. If you only end up with 6, you'll be okay. But don't have any more than 9. And so don't use this page, unless you really want to. But my opinion would be to take that one away. All right, so I deleted that one. So this is where you start to have conversations. Now, whether or not you need this as a slide is going to be up to you. Explain to them what you're going to do to make sure that their life is easier. You're looking for a connection with your sellers and buyers, and just go over what that means to you. Here's a slide. You could just read that, or you could have a conversation. Either one is fine. You haven't done this a lot, so whatever you need is going to be okay. But you do need to explain to them that this is about them. You as an agent have been hired by them, or hopefully will be hired by them to list their house. So please make sure that you always know it's about them, it's not about you. This goes over the process. So some of you guys are very new, well, sort of, and you're kind of new, and yet you've been in real estate for a while. It's just different here. This is something that you can remind them of over and over again. You want to be really, really fancy as you go through the process of working with them, whether they're a buyer or a seller, there is a process sheet for either side. You could be really fancy and have one with a check mark on each time, and then send them out an email. It's like, oh, guess we're here. But this is letting them know what's happening. People want to know. People that do not know what's going on and they ask you what's going on, I haven't heard from you. That is probably not going to be somebody that you're going to get a referral from. Now, if it's a matter, it's been 3 hours and they want to know what's going on because you're dealing with like a challenge, whatever word you want to use, then okay, that would make a little bit more sense. But ideally, the process is going to be the process, and they need to know what the process is going to look like. So this one, I think is a very important slide. Do you guys know that this even existed? Some of you that are new, did you know that this existed? Not really. Do you, Leslie, do you guys use a process type of, you guys have systems, so I know you have something.
Yeah. Mhm. But this is the one in command, right?
This is the one in command. Yeah, you could tweak it, because that's the whole thing. Like, let's say, because you're dealing with a property that has a dock. I don't know if this talks anything about water. There might be some things that need to be done because this is a property that's on the water, and add a check mark to, or how to add a little box for that. It could be a house that it's part of an estate, and so there are some attorney review things that need to be done. Add that in there. It's editable. How are you guys doing in Zoom?
Doing well, thank you.
Okay, good stuff. So this is kind of like a header about your marketing plan to say, oh, yay, guess what? We're going to talk about a marketing plan. So whether or not you need that page or not, that's going to be up to you. It explains a little bit about what a marketing plan is geared towards. It's just like a header. Here's where you get into a lot of those extra pages that may or may not make any, they're not necessarily needed. Depending on how much time you're spending with them, you want to get down to the nitty gritty. Now, if you're speaking to someone this is a big emotional decision for them, then be a little bit more patient with them, because you're going to need that time to have conversations about what this process is going to be like, or it's been a really long time since they've bought or sold. And so you need more compassion around it. And if that's the case, then you might want to have a little bit more. But if you talk to them on the phone, or maybe you met them, you saw them in an open house, and they were in that type of a state, the last kid's going off to college, or this was this is our first house together, all of those things. There's a different kind of relationship they're going to have to the house. Or you might have somebody else that maybe they're very happy that they're moving out of that house for whatever those reasons are, and they want to be just quick, just tell me what I need to do. That person may not need something like this. The person that has a little bit more of an emotional attachment, you may want to go over a little bit more of what's the process is going to be like. So there's a few pages that are in here that go into a lot of the nitty gritty, and most people do not want nitty gritty. So this might be one of those, it's up to you. And that just talks about where buyers come from. So we also have that it talks about the promotional assets. It's the same type of thing. When it comes to your marketing materials, If you haven't done it before, this is a good opportunity for you to take something, you can take it from command. You could take a listing that the office has had, or if you've had one, or just take some sample pictures and create a couple of the marketing pieces. Because they really just, they don't want to hear you talk about something, they want to see what it looks like. So I'm going to say, if you have that, have this, that's fine, but have something. So take one of the flyers that's in command, or if you use Canva, whatever, and put one of those in here. This is what I will have at your open house. This is what I have that I am going to send out 100 postcards. Maybe that's something that you are going to do. I'm going to have, this is going to be my ad on social media. They're going to be more impressed with seeing what it actually looks like than you just talking about it. You know, people are, and that's for almost everybody, that they want to see it. And it's the same thing. If you wanted to go in here and add that, you know, something about, I'm going to have social media ads when we go live for the first 7 days. This is what I'm going to do. You can do an ad for $3 or $4 a day if you wanted to, so it doesn't have to cost a fortune. You might want to do more than that, but you really could do for a few dollars a day. It does work. So you could talk about something like that. It's like, I will have 7 days of social media ads when we first launch. And then every time we have an open house. Now in the market that we have today, it's going to go under contract most likely in a few days, but maybe it's not, you know, maybe it's a little bit more of a unique property. And so it doesn't do that. So keep in mind what your threshold for that is too, because saying something like, for every day that is on the market, I'm going to have Facebook and Instagram ads running all about your property, that could end up being kind of expensive. So you can do it, but just pay attention to that. You guys are really quiet. Everybody's really quiet. So here's your some more about the marketing plan. Let me just make this bigger. So see how it has those flyers? This is where, yes, you could have this or the other page, but truly have like a full page. If you're going to do a flyer, have a full page flyer so they could actually see it and what that looks like. But here's where, okay, are these the things that you're going to do? Please go through this. If you're not going to knock on doors and it says something about knocking on doors, which I think it does somewhere, do not put that in there. That's something that you're not going to do, then please don't put that in there. If you're not going to have a personal, a one pager of their property that's different from just your MLS that goes through our website, you know, we're basically on our website, you look up their property. You're not going to have a single, they're called single page sites. Sorry. Then don't put that on there. If you're not going to send out postcards, do not put that on there. So if you're going to have a generic version of this, please be cautious, because we don't want you out there lying to somebody saying that you're going to do something and then not do it. It's better to be, wait, what is that? Under promise and over deliver. Thank you.
Suzy?
Yes.
So let's just say we're not doing the custom property website.
Okay.
Can you show us how to delete that from that and then maneuver around in the red box to make it all look even and nice, or how you?
Sure. So I might, well, I mean, all you do is you just move it around like this, but I'll tell you what might be an even easier way to do it is to write it into one box. Like take one box. Well, I could probably just move it around. Maybe that would be easier. Depends on what your background is and how well you would use this. So I probably, oh, hello. Is that about right? No. Now I'm using the up and down arrows on my keyboard, which allow me to move it around, which is kind of nice. Yeah, so you really just have to go in and, oops. Well, now why you ask the question that I'm gonna have a hard time with now? Jeez. Oh, there we go.
That sounds like PowerPoint where you click in the box and you can.
Well, you do, there you go. You just said when you start moving it, if it collects the, whatever you're grabbing incorrectly, which is always a user error, it's always us that we're just touching it wrong, then you just have to move it around. So this is what I would do. That is probably what I would do. And just move it around. It just would take a bit of time. Now, ideally, I'm going to ask the question, like, why aren't you doing all of those things? Because if you want to, somebody's hiring you, and we have an average price point here in this general area. Here in this office, we do a lot of sales in Sarasota as well as in Bradenton. We sell on average, our homes are around the 400 plus mark. That's what our average is. You're going to make between 2.5% and 3% on those sales. That's a decent amount of money. Why aren't you sending out 100 postcards? I mean, in all honesty, that would be the question. Because from a seller's perspective, if you're not doing those things, this is what they're going to say. And I'm not calling anybody any of these names, but this is what they may think. You're either lazy or cheap, right? Because it's either something that's going to cost money or it's going to take time. And you're telling me that you don't want to do either of those. That's how it could be perceived. Now, some sellers may have no idea of the other things that are out there, but we have the internet nowadays. And if they're reading something and they see something, it's like, your agent should be doing this, and they come back, why aren't you doing that? You don't want those questions. You'd rather have the questions, or not even that there's questions. You'd rather have them look at that and say, well, they're doing all of those things or more or better or whatever it is.
Do postcards really work now?
Different conversation. You do it, a lot of it for like branding purposes. And yes, they do work to a degree. It's a long process though. Yeah. Yep. And the thing is, we're doing this for the seller. This is about the seller. It's not about us. Then there's some strategic promotions. We have to be careful here in how we promote for coming soon. We are limited on how it has to be within 24 hours of the house going live online. So our coming soons are our guidelines are very strict. So just make sure.
Only 24 hours.
Only 24 hours. I know. Yep. Every other area that I've lived, we've been able to do it for, which sometimes it was too long, which didn't help buyers, but you could definitely do it like 3 days. 3 days is a pretty common rule. Yeah, we're 24 hours, and it's not days, it's hours. Whether it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's hours, 24 hours. So just make sure that you're abiding by what our guidelines are. And if you are going to do this, now, if you're not going to do anything about coming soon, which you should, by the way, coming soon is important, but let them know what that looks like. Same thing about just listed. Is there going to be something that you're going to do about it just listed? Are you going to send out postcards for that? Are you going to door knock because it was just listed and you're going to be doing an open house? Just make sure that whatever is on here that you're able to do that. The other thing is we do have limitations when it comes to door knocking in some of our areas, in a lot of our areas. So you're not going to be able to door knock everywhere.
What is the call out campaign?
Call out. He asked, what is call out campaign?
In that coming sooner.
I'm not seeing the word call out.
The last one's under coming soon. Cursor's almost not there. Call out campaign. Coming soon,
Yeah.
call out campaign.
Coming soon campaign.
Call
Ha-
out campaign.
Oh, call out. Coming soon call out campaign to highly qualified buyers. Like for them to come and see it.
Ooh, how does that actually?
Big question. Don't have time for how to make all of that work, but if you have people that are in your database that are qualified for homes that are like that, you can have them come and see it. That's probably the simple answer. How do you make all that work? That's a,
And
I can help with that.
might be technological widget in the room, but Twitter and Instagram.
what are they?
No. Isn't that best way?
Is what?
Is there any, how do we get those, some knowledge to place it, do advertising through this?
So Blake does classes on social media, advertising on how to do that as well. And I do them sometimes also. Yeah. So how to make an ad. Yep. I could just ask Maddie. She's a pro. Or Brad's done them. Yeah. He'll put it together. I mean, he'll put it together with you, not for you. You want to learn, teach you to fish. So just to make sure you guys on Zoom, Blake can help you put together a social media ad. So book an appointment with him and he will show that to you and make sure that you know how to do it. What is your open house strategy? So this goes back to, we live in an area that there's a lot of places you cannot door knock. So if you're not going to door knock, don't do that. But what is your open house strategy going to be? Currently, the market that we've had for the last few months, most likely if you have an open house over the weekend, it's going to be sold by the time you get to Monday, most of the time. Doesn't happen every time, but it does happen a lot. So if you're going to have open houses, is there a way to do multiple open houses every single day? Have somebody come in the morning, somebody come in the afternoon, and have 6 hours of open house on a weekend to allow for the most activity? Is it a house that it may not have that? It's not the most perfect house. And so it's just going to be more of a regular sale. Yes, you'll still have multiple offers, but it's not going to be people beating down the doors for it. Then you may have a little bit different, but having open houses is something for you guys, especially if you are a newer agent, is something that can feed your database and you can pick up buyers from that. Now, sometimes they're buyers that are looking for something right away. A lot of times they're a little bit down the road and you just have to work that part out. But the open house is not always going to be what's going to sell the house. It's more about showcasing it, and also for you as an agent to possibly pick up other buyers. The other thing about the open house, they need to know what is important about an open house and what they need to do to get ready for it. So that gives you that opportunity. So now you start to get into a lot of just context and conversations. So it's in the details, eye-catching yard signs, listings, amplified, door knocking, mass mobile marketing, if you're going to do any of those things. The mobile marketing, I want you to be very careful about because you're limited on what you can do because of the do not call lists. So most likely that should not be in your presentation. If you're someone who has a massive database already, these are people that you have their information, their numbers, because you know them from places of work and people that you already know, then maybe you could use that. This is where you take a minute just to brag about yourself. This is where you can put your bio, and you should take a minute to talk about yourself. If you don't have a lot of real estate experience, then take what you've done with other things, whether it's been, Maddie had another business before she started real estate. You might have been I was in pharmaceutical management and we did marketing. So marketing was my background. I didn't actually do a lot of the marketing, but I oversaw it and I knew how to hire somebody if they needed something. So that was plenty. So lean into what your experience is, what things that you've run, things that you've done, people that, organizations that you've been a part of. The other thing about these numbers is this is what you can get from us as an office. So there are ways that you can pull, and Brian's been sending them out. We help so many families. buy homes, we had this many listings, we had this much, whatever it is that we did, that's where you can pull that information and add it in here. It doesn't have to be yours. If you haven't sold anything yet, then your numbers would not look, well, there wouldn't be anything to put in numbers. And whether or not you need to have numbers there, you could just take this out. I mean, in all honesty, you could just, there, then it just talks about you. Could do that as well. But I would talk about, lean into some of the things that we have in the office, because you are part of a very productive office. So put that out there. Okay. This is another thing about the numbers. If you do not have numbers yet, this might be something that you leave out, but you could have a bit of a reference about what's happening in the market again, like the market as a whole of like Sarasota County, Manatee County. It's like you just make it a little bit bigger. Remember, we talked very locally. Now you could get a little bit bigger. This is about Keller Williams and the awards, whether Keller Williams or if you happen to be somebody who has received awards, you could put that in there. Most of the time, they don't necessarily care about the awards that Keller Williams has run or has won. It's typically not a really big deal to them. If it is, great. You might have already heard from them that, oh yeah, I've only used Keller Williams agents for every property that I've bought and sold over the last 30 years. Maybe, but that's probably going to be rare. And so they don't want, it's not a brag session. This is about them. So if you want to put this in there, you can, but don't let it be that you are leaning into everything about Keller Williams. It's more about what you can do to help them. When they overlap, great. Definitely bring that into the conversation, but just don't go all in on everything, because it just will take a lot of time and you might lose them. There have been times that people have had a transaction or had a listing that they're ready to sign the paper. And then because you talk too much, they then decide that they don't want to use you. So you can go in and out of that. So as you are more comfortable with real estate, you might get to the point that you can kind of like read that. It's like, I've been talking for a little while. I don't know how you feel, but if you're ready, we can kind of get started. What do you think? Nothing wrong with if you feel that that's right for you. This is another brag page about Keller Williams. So again, pick and choose for yourself. I'm just giving you a little bit of feedback when it comes to talking to buyers and sellers. They don't want to sit there for 3 hours and hear how great Keller Williams is. They don't want to sit there and hear how great you are. They want to hear how great they are. Yes.
Another good reason to either email the presentation to them or have
Mhm.
a paper copy. They can read it.
You
later.
can send
They can
them.
read through it.
Absolutely. You could definitely send them through. I'm just doing from a presentation perspective, keep it to 45 minutes to an hour. If they wanted to spend 30 minutes and talking about how much they love the house because they've lived there for 30 years, let them do that. You're getting paid well. Do not rush that part of it. But if it is they're just looking for, what are you going to do for me? Let me sign the papers. Or what are you going to do for me? Because I'm interviewing 3 other people, win me over. Don't bore them. Okay. This again is going to be pages that are relevant to, or that you can take from the MLS. So this has more of what's been going on between what's going on in the market and also what you have done, or if you haven't done a lot, then lean into what we as an office have done. And you can pull up some of the transactions because it's all our office. So there's a few pages that are this. Quite a few pages. Again, just take them from, if the houses make sense to use as comps, have a few of those. That's where I talked about the maybe 9 or so pages. Don't need to go much further than that. If you do not have any references about real estate, you probably have some recommendations from other things that you've done. Go find 3, whether it's someone that you worked with before or an organization that you've donated time to, or maybe you've led a group. All of those things can be very helpful when it comes to having your conversation with your seller and winning them over. So you should have some references. Doesn't matter if you're new to real estate. Now, I am a fan of the promise or a promise. So some of you guys might have been part of, it was either family reunion or mega camp, where there was a agent talking about the promise. Who here, did you go to mega camp? Did you go to mega camp? Does that sound familiar to you?
Mhm.
So there was an agent that was talking about a promise, and basically, Brad might be able to talk about this better than my memory would be, but they were talking about that they have a promise, and they go over the promise at the beginning of their transaction, whether it's a buyer or a seller. It's like, here are the things that I promise are going to be a part of, that I'm going to do for you. And then in turn, and this is where I think it's important, because first of all, you're promising them, and we tend to do a better job when we promise to do something. Tell them what the things that you're going to do. And here's an example. And then, in turn, if I'm able to provide five-star service for, with all of these things, I would love to have a review. And that's what they're looking for, because that's a win-win. You delivered everything. And so trying to get a review from them. So this is something that I think is important. It's just to verbalize. This is all about you. It goes back to, you've hired me to sell your house. And in so doing, here are the things that I promise that I'm going to do. There may be a time that you have a question about something, or you may not know that there's something that's going on in the background that I did. Please always come to me, ask a question. I will do my very best to make sure that you are aware of everything that's going on and what the process, where we are in the process. But if at any time that you feel that you need more communication from me, please let me know. And by doing things like that, you're opening it up, because there might be. And I think I said it at the beginning, and I'll say it again. Please don't let it become a relationship to where they're calling you up and saying, what's going on? Because when you get that check at the end, they're not going to want to give you a review. You want it to be like, thank you. That they feel that there was a value in the service that you provided. Bit of a high horse on that one. So for all of us, we should be very careful for a variety of reasons, COVID or not. Please be careful. We have had instances where people have been harassed or hurt on showing things like that. So always take care of yourself. And then, of course, given that there are things there are viruses and all that are going out. So just always be careful. And it's all about them. So you may have a different feeling on what you need to do. Please make sure that you take care of the client and what's important to them. If they want people to take their shoes off before they enter into the property, if they want them to not touch anything, and then you're supervising how that goes. Please make sure that you set that up so that anybody that enters the home is going to do as asked. And you should. It's their home. This is their house. It's not your house. It's not our opinions on whether or not we think that they're overreacting or not. It's important. So that may not, again, that may be a conversation. Make changes if you want, but talk about how their house is going to be protected. Side story on this, please be careful of if you're working with someone, with anybody, they should be aware of so if they get to the point that they have decided they're going to hire you, anyone who has medications in their bathrooms, it's a good time just to remind them they have anything of value, and they think of value. A lot of people think of value more about like jewelry and money. Value is also drugs that are in your medicine cabinet, and that is not an uncommon thing for people to take. So when you're in open houses and all that, just be careful. And then the same thing about firearms. Everything should be locked up and else should be safe. So hopefully you know that, and the person tells you ahead of time that, you know, just wants you to know that there's guns on the property and they are locked up or whatever is going on with that. So you need to be aware. Okay, we're almost done. Bottom line, again, this might be something that it might have been covered in the promise section, but it just goes over a little bit more and just read over it. Like, what sounds like you? And is this something that does sound like you? And what you're going to be doing when it comes time to actually the sale that day, the closing table. Goes back to, you already have that chart. So this is really just to solidify, and you need some kind of a closing. This is an opportunity also about your app. I'm a fan of showing them the app and sending it to them when you're there. Kind of hard for somebody to say no when you're sitting right there with them. It's like, oh yeah, I have this really cool app and here's what it does. It's like, I'm going to share this with you. Okay. Okay, great. Click on that. Thank you. And then it's kind of done. Don't go into a whole explanation of it. Again, it could be one of the side things that you have as far as what the app is about, but from a presentation perspective and from the discussion time, probably not as much. And the last, is it the last page? Yeah, it's the last page. Of course, you know, again, have your information on how they can get in contact with you. You have it on your card, but you should have it on the presentation as well. So out of this, it has 26 pages. There's probably 5 pages, if not 8 or so, that you may or may not want to combine or just get rid of completely. When you do your presentation, though, it is not about taking a page and flipping through it. It's like, okay, you know, see this lovely page. Now we're going to talk about this page. Then you spend a few minutes on every single page. Not so much. Keep it as a conversation. It's like, I want to talk a little bit about this. It's like, here, let me show you some things that I have. Whether you have this in some kind of a folder binder type of thing or whatever it is that you have, you should be providing them with something when you're there. Now, some people will also have like their marketing plan separate to where that's not left with the listing, with the seller. Because imagine, let's say that they are going to be interviewing with a couple of other people and you haven't been successful with talking them out of doing that. You don't want to have somebody else, because if I see somebody's marketing plan, I go in there and I see a Remax agent's marketing plan in writing, I would say, oh, you know, do you mind if I take a look at that? Because I'm sure I do everything on this sheet, if not more. And I'd make sure that I did everything on that sheet or more. It's like, well, I can do this. Everybody does this. And it's like, and I do these other things. That's what I would be doing if I had that opportunity. So my advice, don't leave it with them. It's like, I'm happy to leave you with this. And I even have some 5 steps to getting your house ready for sale, which there's all kinds of stuff that's out there. But that's once you sign the paperwork. It's like, we can do that now. It's like, now here's a pen. Okay. So that's from a listing presentation perspective. We want to shift over to for about 20 minutes or so, go over to the buyer's presentation. Do you guys have any questions about this? Wow. By the way, none of you, no, Jan, you were with Keller Williams a long time ago. Do you remember the old presentation by chance? It was like 45 pages. See, we've come a long way. Hello, somebody's knocking on our door. Okay. All right. So that's that. Now, when you do this, and I did mention at the beginning, I didn't, from time perspective, I did not like hit save everywhere. So now that I have, whoops. Now that I have done that, it does have an auto save, but I still want to save it. I'm going to hit save one more time. It says saving. Yay, save. Last changes saved. Everything is saved. I also have the ability to download it. I can download it as a PDF. which a PDF is just it's basically the PDF standard or PDF for printing. Either one of those will work fine. I honestly can't tell a big difference when it comes to just printing it on a regular printer. So that's what you would do if you wanted to print it. Now, the other thing is you have the ability to share it. So I could take this entire project, which keep in mind, there's the design, which is one page, or the project, which is the whole page. And I can then take this. I'm going to do a private one because it's obviously not ready. And well, here, I'll just take this link. I'm going to open up another window. And this is what it would look like. Cool. So you could have something like this on a flyer and have, if you're interested in selling your house, here's what I can do for you. And it'll have everything. You see what I mean, it's exactly what I did. It's obvious because part of it is not correct. But that's a living document. Now, if you make changes, it's not going to show up. That would be a new save. But this could be something that you could text somebody with it. That's kind of nice. So it's like, I have some information on how I sell your house, how I sell houses. Why not have this so that you can just send it over to somebody when you're at an open house? I still recommend having some printed copies. People like paper. Why not do both?
I'm sure you said this earlier. I apologize. When you save it, it doesn't save it in KW?
It saves it under the projects which are within command. Yes, but you can be anywhere, and it is, you can give this to your client, and your client doesn't have to be logged into our Keller Williams system. Is that what you mean?
No, just
Oh.
When I'm playing around and saving my messes, does everybody have to look at it?
Oh, no, because don't send this out until it's finished. Yeah.
So we can save it to our own laptop or desktop as well, right?
You can do that too, and that way you would save it as a PDF.
So you got there, back up one step, because I was on the share the project.
Oops.
I see the Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter.
Oh, oops. Hold on, guys. Sorry. Where was I? Hold on, guys. I don't know where I was. I was not here.
Web link.
I have too many things open.
Private design.
Where was I? I have no idea where I was. Well, yeah, but that is it.
That's right.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So you're there,
I thought that I checked all this. Yes. Oh,
and you push share.
share.
private
There's design or project.
So project, private design.
Project, private design, correct.
Then what?
Oh,
pull it up.
Now, if I was sharing it, I wouldn't do that. I would do anyone can view.
Right.
So if I do anyone can view, because that's going to be my setting, right?
Yeah.
Oh, then what else did I do?
Yeah. how did you pull it up from there? I'm just looking at it going, and I missed. Did you just copy that link?
Yeah,
and
just
open
copy
it
that
on the
link.
Page?
Yep, copy that link and then go over here. And then it's there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. No, that's okay. You're welcome. Where is it over here? Oh, it's because it's further over. Okay, so that's share, download. Now, when you're done, you do need to hit done. There you go. And then it will be over here in your designs. So if I'm in my designs section, you're going to be able to, whoops, it's going to be, which one was it? Oh, it's right here. So I just did it. So right here in the top, I think it's always in the top left-hand corner. This is what I just did. So I have a lot of things that I've done and they'll just stay in there. So I can always go back to it, make some changes. But I believe that and you guys can test this, I believe that this is the case. if you make any changes and you have it online somewhere, it's not going to take the new one, I believe. I think that it creates a new link is what happens. Double check that. Somebody get back to me with it.
When you
It
hover
used
over
to, I don't know if it changed.
When you hover your mouse over it. Here's different. Mine actually has a save Pinterest little thing up in the top left corner when I see it.
Oh, you're fancy.
Still have the 3 dots and then the enlarge, but the right-hand side.
Hmm.
Weird.
I don't know. All right, so let me show you quickly the differences for it. For the most part, I've shown you some of the stuff, but let me show you for your buyers. All right, so I want to go to my buyers. Buyers presentation. See how they look very similar? I would suggest becoming very consistent with your branding. All of you guys are quiet. Zoom people are quiet. Everybody's quiet today. All right, so this one has 32 pages. That's a lot of pages. We're not going to like go over every page, not quite as much because I've given you already some of the philosophies. This again, this is giving you an idea of how to actually conduct a buyer's presentation. So do not have that for your actual consultation. That's just for you. It gives you some guidelines. Again, have a buyer's consultation or a presentation that is generic. If you are going to be meeting with them, sure, go right ahead and put their name. Again, you're going to be sitting with them or doing it as a virtual appointment. Let them know what's going to happen. We're going to talk about what is really important to you and what would your dream house look like, your preferences, and just go through this. This is what the next half hour, next hour is going to be like. This goes into the conversation. Again, once you've done this a few times, or if you feel that you're fairly personable, have yourself a little checklist that you can be utilizing for them. If you sit there with them and go over 32 pages worth of things, you're going to miss out on the connections and having a conversation with them. So be careful about that, because there's a few pages here that are a little bit about, tell me a little bit about you and what's important to you and your family. So you see, it's really just asking these questions. Like at the top, it says that's your needs come first, but the previous page is, it's a sound decision. Tell me what's going on as to why you're looking at buying right now. So you've got that. This is asking the questions. So if you see on the right-hand side of the document, it has basically some ideas of how you're actually going, this is of the, I need my glasses on how you're going to get in touch with them. Again, do you need a page for this? Or is this just a matter of, you're going to have a buyer's profile sheet, which is in Ignite. We have the buyer's profile sheets that ask all these questions. So whether or not you have a slide for it, it just might be a little bit weird. This is when you start going through, again, the buyer's lead sheet or buyer's sheet. You want to go through the process. What is it that they're looking for when it comes to buying? So there's the page before this page, and I want to say it's one more page. To 2 more pages? Yeah. So it was like 4 pages. that are basically filling out the buyer's lead sheet. Again, that's something that you can find in Ignite. And whether or not you want to have those sheets like they are in the presentation and keep them, it's going to be up to you. My advice from my experience would be more fill out that buyer's sheet with them and just ask them some questions. Like somebody is going to say, we're going to ask the questions, like, tell me the kind of, Brad could play this probably pretty well. Brad, tell me what you're looking at in buying a house. What's important to you?
Oh, well, we have to have 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, it's gotta be on the water with dock.
Okay. When it comes to the dock, what kind of boating do you like to do?
Well, fishing mostly, but Manatee River access, Braden River access, need a 150-foot water frontage.
So see, I asked him questions that would lead me to tell me the type of things that he needs in the house. And I knew he would play along because he's done this before. Maddie, next time I'll use you because you've heard me do a little bit of it. So because he told me a lot of that, I could take my lead sheet. I say, okay, let me make a few little notes. And people are okay with that. You know, they don't want you just going through a checklist and giving an interrogation of what is it that you want? You know, tell me about the bathrooms, tell me the kind of granite. No, it's not that. What are they looking for? Let them tell you, and then you fill out your sheet. You go line by line, you're not making connection with them, and you're going to not have the stronger relationship with them. So that's what you can do with a lot of those other pages. Same thing about the neighborhood, finding out what kind of neighborhood that they're looking for. Let them tell you. You have to be careful because remember, we can't steer. Steering is illegal. And our idea of the perfect neighborhood, we have to be careful on how we communicate that, because that may not be legal, however you would describe it. They can say whatever they want. I've had buyers give me information and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I really want to work with you. You just said some things that I'm really uncomfortable with. But they can say whatever they want. We can't say that. You can say whatever you want. You just can't be a real estate agent at the same time. I'll put it that way. Go out there, say whatever you want. Same thing about like neighborhood. It's all in here. So a lot of those pages really go back to that lead sheet, but that gives you the talking points. So if you don't know how to have that conversation, then go through those and use that as your textbook to ask those questions. Now, you probably, by the time that you're having a serious conversation with, you probably know a little bit about what they're looking for. Maybe they've given you 5 different areas that they're looking, or 5 different neighborhoods or builders or whatever it is. Then at that point, you might want to have some discussion about, okay, here's what's going on in those neighborhoods. You told me that you're interested in ABC. Let's talk a little bit about ABC. With this one, you get some extra stuff. With this one, you're going to have less amenities. With this one, it's probably the most affordable out of everything that you're looking at. And here's some examples of what that could look like. That's what you can do with things like the neighborhood insight. Remember how I talked about like the process? This is just formatted a little bit different. Yeah, it's just formatted a little bit differently, but it's the same kind of thing. It's telling you what is the process. So go through this process. Let them know. This is what it's going to look like. Here's what searching for a home is going to look like. Here's what it is like to make an offer nowadays. This is that opportunity if you have not shown houses, and Maddie and well, Brad, as well as Leslie have done this, and Jan has done this in the past, depending on what's going on in the market. Now Leslie knows it a little bit before the craziness of this market. It was still pretty hot, but wasn't quite this crazy. This conversation changes. It'll change when it goes into a buyer's market. Who knows? Maybe one day, but a long time. We're all going to be like, how do we do this? We're not going to really remember.
Pivot, shift.
Yeah, very good. And we need to know. We actually need to know how to actually do this. Not we knew. I'm sorry. They need to know. More. Now the financing thing, be careful about this. You're not their lender. If they are going to be financing, direct them back to their lender. They probably have had conversations about the lending. One thing that you can keep in mind though, depending on how the market is, and right now the market is very competitive, explain to them, given their particular situation, is that going to be impacting when you're putting in offers? If they are a VA and FHA, then they are going to need to be strategic on how they put in the offer and what kind of things are you going to need? Because with that type of a loan, if you're up against somebody that's with cash, how can we make our offer more appealing? This is a good opportunity for you to talk about that. Need to have that, let's say they have $5,000 to put down, maybe. We need to have that ready to go. It needs to be in the account so that you have the ability to put that into an escrow account with the title company. Have those conversations then. Need to be ready. We may be at a house that you say, yeah, we really like this house. I think we want to put in an offer. You're going to hear from, I'm going to play like I'm the agent. What you're probably going to hear from me when you say that, I'm probably going to say, okay, we're going to stand here. We're going to make the offer right now. It's like, I have the papers with me. Let's do it now, because we might have an advantage just by being the first. So let's do that. So I don't want you to be surprised when I do that. Like, oh, it's too soon. I'm like, okay. Just want to make sure that you know that's how you win offer. That's how you win. Yeah, win offers. Again, you're not a lender. Please don't go into the lending too deep, because whatever you say probably changed, because that changes as quickly as our market does. And you don't want to be their resource for their lending. This gives you a little bit about what's going on, but if they've already got that sorted out, I would leave that with that lender if it's a lender that you feel comfortable with. Goes back to the numbers. It's the same thing that we did with the listings. What is going on with the office? You can utilize our numbers that you get from Brian, which will be Rebecca, probably. I think she'll have it done for December. Yay. We'll make her do it. Whether or not, if you don't have the numbers, then just lean on the office. Talks a little bit about your partnership. Again, making a promise to them. Now you're going to get into a little bit more. Oh, that's actually the same one. Then we start getting into the stuff with Keller Williams. Now I like to talk about Keller Williams to clients. I think that it's important because we have a lot to contribute as a company to the agents and as well as to the community and to that ultimately that buyer and seller. However, gauge that. Again, it's all about them. How does that relate to them? And you don't want them to just get bored with you. So there are pieces of this part that you may choose to utilize sometimes, but maybe not all the time. Because again, it's like 36 pages. You need to cut that down. You can, as I think Michael is the one that said that you can give that to them. Jan said the same thing. We can give that to them. But as far as like the talking points, not going to be everything. So I gave you some little information and I told you about, so we have something coming up. It's called Red Day. Some of you guys don't even know what Red Day is yet. There's something coming up this Red Day. We're going to be doing backpacks for kids in the area. And I'll probably, let you know what day that is. And if you wanted to contribute, that would be great. And then here's some more information about it and carry on. So there's a lot of the pages that you're just going to go through that are that supplement. A lot of them are going to be similar to your listing presentation. You guys falling asleep in Zoom land? Somebody's going to say. Now, the vocabulary section, I actually do think that is great, but do not go through the vocabulary with them. This is just a side note. if a couple of you guys are very new, it's kind of handy to keep with you. Doesn't hurt. Like Maddie, you probably know most of these terms by now, but maybe not all of them, or maybe not well enough to really have long conversations, but you're probably getting there because you hear them over and over again. And of course, how to get in touch with us. And if there is an affiliate business. So the side note to this part, this is a page that we have as our KW buyer's disclosure. That's what this is asking for. It also gives you an opportunity to talk about your buyer relationship. So we have relationships with our buyers that is, well, actually for buyers and sellers, with our clients, that we can either be a transaction broker or we can be a single agent. We can also be a single agent that transitions to transaction. Now this goes back to Scott teaches these classes and there is a video. Some of you guys may have watched it already. But the idea is that if you're showing them a property that is a property of this office, so somebody in this office has listed that property, you must operate as a transaction broker. It doesn't have to be your listing. It has to be any listing out of this office. You are a transaction broker. So that's the way that we operate. Well, that's the way the state of Florida operates. You are encouraged to be a single agent until you need to be a transaction broker. And part of that is because it's hard to be just a transaction broker. The moment you give them advice, you are a single agent. Transaction broker, you do not give advice. You handle the transaction, but you do not give them advice. The moment that you go through things, not go through things, but the moment that you start to give them advice, you are a single agent. So my recommendation is to have them sign the transition to transaction, the single agent transition to transaction. And this just gives you an opportunity to lean into that. I want to leave it to Scott to go over that as far as a class, because he is our broker and it's his license that we're protecting. My license, I'm the only one protecting that one. So I don't want to be the one that teaches you that part. You guys feel a little bit better about how to do this? It's not hard. It might be a little tedious and it depends on your comfort level with our systems. But get this done so that when you do an open house, you have the ability to send them that link. And it's like, I'd love to work with you. If I can just send it to you in a text message, and this will just go over what the process is. I'll have all my information on it and so forth. Sometimes they're going to say no, sometimes they're going to say yes, but that's probably more than, the person down the street that they see the open house and they just hand them the card. And then you also have their phone number because they gave it to you. Any questions? Yes.
We're taking out buyers. Do we get an agreement from them that we are a single agency? Do you do that up front? I'm not sure.
You should do it up front.
Okay.
Yeah, and you don't have to do. My advice is to do the transition to transaction. Don't do the single agent or the transaction. Do the one that allows you to be either or.
Which form do we use?
So there's 3 forms. There's a single agent form. There's a there's a single agent with the ability to transition to a transaction agent. And then there's a transaction agent. So there's 3. If you use the middle one, the single agent with the ability to transition to a transaction agent, that one allows you to work as a transaction or a single agent. Yes, sir.
Where are they located?
Where's who located?
Those 4.
They are in the state of Florida. They are in Florida Association of Realtors in DocuSign. And you knew that. You just wanted, and for everybody else. Correct.
That was always my question. Where are they?
Yep.
Say that again, where?
It's in DocuSign.
Okay.
So DocuSign has all of the forms. They all live there because I don't want to send you a form and then 3 weeks later they change the form. You're like, well, Suzy sent it to me. So it's in the system. You guys on Zoom, anybody have a question? Oh, so we have a chat. Oh, you're very welcome, Corey. That's it. Wow. Are you guys like on the downturn from sugar from Halloween or something? It's a few days later. It's like the quietest class ever. All right, I'm gonna hang up, guys. Thanks in Zoom land.